Hey, what's going on, internet? It's Khalif here again, and this is Synergy Source, my blogging project where I talk about philosophy, spirituality, things of that sort. I've been making these quote pictures and posting them, some short analysis on Instagram for 2 years straight now, still going. And I'm starting to make these videos to shake things up and make some more engaging content. To start, I've been going over my quotes from the day of from the past year and revisiting discussions. Today is January 6th. So I'm going to talk about the quote I posted to the Instagram on January 6, 2021, which is, "Never underestimate the power of human stupidity." And that's by Robert A. Heinlein. Again, don't know who Robert A. Heinlein is. That name sounds a little German. He could have been. I don't know. Now, I'm not going to try to paint with a broad brush, man. Germans are cool. Not all Germans are. Yeah. And that's funny because I'll spoiler alert, I get into Godwin's law in a second here. But anyways, so yeah, never underestimate the power of human stupidity. So the first thing I thought about with this quote is, it seems like every person that gets to a certain point, or not even gets to a certain point, just when you have a level of understanding in a particular craft, or when you learn about people in a certain how people go about discourse on certain topics and things of that sort, it seems like it's a very common occurrence for a person to feel like, oh man, everybody's stupid, people are so stupid, the people on the other side are so stupid. And I remember I read in Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind, that's one of the first thing he addresses is that the reason why it always feels like people are stupid is because they're operating from a different foundation than you. So when people are processing information, their worldview organizes things in a different order. They have like a different priority system, a different palette of moral intuitions, as he calls it. There are different moral intuitions people have, and different people have different taste receptors that they tend to they develop different tastes for. They develop different moral tastes, to where when two people are watching the same situation play out, but based on what their personal moral tastes are, they're tasting different things in that situation. They come to different conclusions. They're quite literally what Scott Adams calls it, two people looking at the same screen and watching different movies. For example, we'll just talk about, like, let's take George Floyd, Derek Chauvin. So if you're a person that's coming from your moral taste receptors you're about authority, you're about order, you're about I forget what the exact moral intuitions are right now. I don't have that stuff in front of me. But anyways, if you're on the quote-unquote law and order side, you would look at that video and you might be more favorable towards thinking that what Chauvin did was following protocol. You'd be more questionable. You'd have more questions about the state of Floyd, what he did to get into that predicament, whether or not he took a questionable amounts of fentanyl, etc. If you have the moral taste receptors of fairness and care, and I forget what the intuition that has to do with not making sure anybody that's a vulnerable class is taken advantage of, then you're looking at that video and you're like, what the fuck? Nothing he's doing, or like nothing he could have done warrants what you're doing right now. Like you almost like, depending on what side, what angle you're coming from, you almost shut your brain off to possibilities on either side of like why someone will come to a different conclusion. It's quite literally like you guys are looking at, you're living in different worlds almost. So and I'm kind of getting off the rails, but I think that was just something to talk about. But yeah, no, so people have different foundations that they come at and look at things through the lens from. So when you come across and you're talking with somebody about the same incident, and you guys are coming at it from two completely different perspectives, the logical conclusion you come to in your mind is this person lacks the mental faculties to properly process the information that comes to the rational conclusion that I've come to. People are always, it's not that I don't think people are always constantly thinking they're better or smarter or more moral than other people, but I think that people they have that thought of, well, I was able to figure this out based on my understandings of what are generally held conventions, what are general social conventions, and it's kind of like a test. If this person's like, well, you didn't pass the test, you must be lacking the faculties, you must be stupid, you must be unintelligent if you weren't able to rationalize this in the same way I was and come to this conclusion. So I vibed with that as a general explanation as to why it feels like everyone's stupid and why everyone on the planet feels like everyone else is stupid, because we're coming from different vantage points and looking at things and then putting labels and feelings on those things as if they are absolute realities when there's different sides to every story. Alright, now I'm getting back to my notes because that was like 10 minutes. I have to edit all this, dude. Alright, so my first bullet point is a person is smart but people are stupid. That's another thing that ties into what Haidt's talking about with these moral intuitions, how people are tribal by nature. The whole of humanity has gotten to this point by people being tribal, organizing into groups, those groups operating through hierarchy and rules, conventions and things like that. When somebody is in a part of when somebody is operating in a way that brings harm to the group, you do your best to oust that person or to correct that behavior. So I think the arguments that he makes in his book Righteous Mind are that people are still have all of those tendencies to be very groupish and tribal, and recognize whenever somebody is outing themselves as a potential detriment to the group, and it kind of activates those old school tribal monkey brain things to where you're just like, oh, this person sucks, let's get rid of them. And that is when people become stupid, to where they turn off your rational minds and follow the rules to maintain and advance your status in a group. So say like a mob isn't gonna listen to reason, whereas you might be able to have a one-on-one conversation and talk to somebody and at least have them understand your vantage point to where you can live in harmony with them. Whereas the mob that's mad about something is much more likely it's so difficult to convince all people. Some of the people there might be able to hear you out, but if those people that hear you out still look around and see all other people in their group like, nah, we need to get rid of this dude, they're gonna just band together and be like, well, I tried, or I need to make sure that they don't come after me. So yeah, a person is smart, you can rationalize and talk to a person, but people, if the mob is ever coming after you, that's an issue. Dude, I've been talking for like 8 minutes already. I'm gonna fly through the rest of this. Control of the narrative is control of the people. People don't care what the truth is. It's about optics, ideology, and narrative. So yeah, that goes along with human stupidity. It's I think stupidity always has people get frustrated whenever it's hard for you to reach somebody. It's hard for you to make a point with someone. It's hard for them to it's hard for effective communication. And whenever you're in different ideological groups or different tribal groups, it's much more difficult for people to look at each other as individuals. They just see each other as a part of that other group, and they make one another like the mouthpiece of that group instead of seeing that person as an individual. So don't always count on people being smart, rational, logical, because that's not what we're designed for. When someone turns off their human brain and is engaged in what I like to call monkey mode, that's when we realize what terrible things people are capable of. So I mentioned I was going to get into Godwin's law. My first examples are always going straight to the extremes, but so monkey mode is what I like to call tribal mindset, when you turn off, whether you turn it off or that the rational parts of your brain are like overruled by your like tribal overlay, to where people start doing things that are illogical and evil, in order, because they've been they're bogged down, they're hyper focused on their role in a group, or a overarching ideology that needs to be pushed forward. So that's what I think. It's kind of monkey mode. Godwin's law. The Nazis, if the statistic, or not statistics, but there's a lot of historical record of the German population at that time being pretty well educated, well run. They were obviously well run and well coordinated, but would you say that Nazis were smart? Obviously not, dude. Like, if you think about it logically, what kind of group is going to be able to take over the world and just bully everybody? Like, that's not a very intelligent perspective to have. But they used what intelligent capabilities they have towards furthering those ideologies that made them stupid. I think I was reading I heard Jordan Peterson talk about it, and Hitler was like so driven by his hateful ideology that it turned him into an idiot. He preferred to make wartime decisions that were more detrimental towards Jewish people, towards like genociding as many of them as possible, than preserving his own people and actually winning the war. Whatever he could have done to win the war wasn't as important as ridding the world of this, what he considered as, whatever the fuck he thought. I'm getting off the rails. I think I've been talking for like 15 minutes. I don't want these videos to get that long. 12 minutes. Anyways, so yeah, never underestimate the power of human stupidity, and also never, I guess, have a good understanding of where stupidity in these people comes from. Well, realize it's not necessarily always willful, and that it almost has an objective. Like, when a person's mind becomes extremely difficult to work with intellectually, it serves a purpose for that person's group, their ideology, etc. Peterson loves to use a young quote: people don't have ideas have people. And when you realize that somebody is, a lot of these situations where it feels like you're talking to people that are stupid, you'll realize that this person is kind of they've become an agent for ideas, ideologies, groups, etc., that makes them almost incapable of having a one-to-one personal conversation with. You almost have to attack that idea or discuss that idea, play devil's advocate with them, this, that, or third, what have you, whatever you please. So yeah, got a little awkward. I felt a little weird talking about Nazis and Hitler and shit like that, but yeah, I know it's some bad shit. But it's always important for everybody to look back on that and have a good understanding of what happened, because it's very possible for it to happen to other people. It wasn't just like they were they were methed up, like methamphetamine, like chock full of methamphetamines and shit like that. But it was a very unfortunately human thing that happened there, I think. So we always need to be wary of those things coming up in ourselves and our friends or family, our groups, our country, our politicians, all that stuff. So yeah, anyways, never underestimate the power of human stupidity, because you see how far it can go and what terrible shit people are capable of when they turn their brains off and engage in monkey mode, that tribal groupish monkey mode. But yeah, anyways, alright, that's way too much talking. I got too much to edit. I appreciate y'all if you listen. Take care, and I'll see you next time.